Yo, what's going on, everybody? We are back with another rankings video for this week. I did running backs for week 2 in my last video. If you didn't see that, go check it out. We're going to be doing the top 25 wide receivers today. I'll probably mention a couple more at the end, and we have actual data to go off on now, so I'll be discussing a little bit of that in here. We have a couple injuries too, so that obviously affects things. So with that said, let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to put the first 5 guys all in the same tier. They're probably not all in the same tier, but they all absolutely balled out last week, and you're playing every single one regardless, so I just don't really think it matters too much. How I have them ranked for this week, though, in case you're interested, I have Justin Jefferson at my wide receiver 1, Cooper Kupp at my wide receiver 2, Devontae Adams at my wide receiver 3, Jamar Chase at my wide receiver 4, and Stephon Diggs at my wide receiver 5. JJ is going up against Philadelphia. The Lions did really good against them on offense, so not too worried about that. Cooper Kupp's going up against Atlanta, so he'll have a tough matchup with AJ Terrell, but he'll be absolutely fine. The rest of the defense isn't very good, and Michael Thomas caught touchdowns on him. Cooper Kupp's going to be just fine. Devontae Adams going up against Arizona. Kansas City showed that their defense is probably not going to be very good. They, especially in the secondary, Devontae Adams is going to absolutely torch them. Jamar Chase, no T. Higgins. They're going up against Dallas, so he'll have Trayvon Diggs, but I assume he's going to cook him too. Stephon Diggs going up against Tennessee. A pretty good defense, but nothing to be worried about. He torched Jalen Ramsey last week. So all these guys are top tier talents, and you're playing them in every single format. All right, moving on to the next tier, my wide receiver 6, I have AJ Brown. He absolutely dominated last week. He had 11 targets on 155. He had 11 targets for 10 receptions on 155 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but still absolutely dominated. Nobody else on the team had more than 4 targets. Going up against Minnesota, there's nothing to be too worried about there. Definitely not as good of a matchup as it was last week, so I can't put him in the upper tier, but it's still an easy wide receiver 1. Also, RIP to Devonta Smith, man. He ain't gonna do nothing this year, unfortunately. It looks like all the camp reports might be true with AJ Brown. All right, after that, I have Deebo Samuel going up against Seattle. He had a pretty solid week last week, but we saw that he's still going to get a ton of opportunity rushing the ball, which is really what allowed him to finish as the wide receiver 2 last year. And with Elijah Mitchell getting hurt, he's just going to get even more opportunity. And the Seattle defense doesn't look to be too tough. And we're going to get a lot better idea, I think, of what this Niners offense actually looks like playing in a normal weather game. But regardless, the ball goes through Deebo Samuel. I got him ranked as my wide receiver 7. Up next, we got Michael Pittman. He's playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, another very friendly matchup. We saw last week that he can absolutely dominate them with Matt Ryan as his quarterback now. Even though overall Matt Ryan didn't look that good, he basically only targeted Michael Pittman, and that is fantastic for fantasy. He had 13 targets for 9 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Houston isn't a very good defense, but neither is Jacksonville, so I think he should have another similar week, and he's the last guy I have in this tier at the wide receiver 8, Michael Pittman. Now to start off tier 3, I'm going to have Mike Evans. They're going up against the Saints, which is normally a pretty tough matchup, and Marshawn Lattimore's a great corner, but historically Mike Evans has dominated that matchup, and they also lost Chris Godwin for sure for at least a couple weeks now. He's going to get a large majority of the targets, and although the offense didn't look that great last week, he still caught a touchdown, and he has opportunity every single week, and with the guaranteed increased workload, it makes sense to have him ranked up here. After that, we have Tyreek Hill. They're going up against the Baltimore Ravens, which is a pretty tough matchup. We didn't really get to see a lot because they're playing the Jets, and with Joe Flacco, who threw 59 passes, so it was really hard to get a good idea of how good they are, but we knew they're going to be good, and it's going to be a tough matchup. But the Dolphins look good, and Tyreek Hill looked like Tyreek Hill. He had 12 targets for 8 receptions and 94 yards. He's going to get schemed open a lot, and with the type of athlete that he is, he can always break one, and he's going to get enough volume where I think he's pretty safe around this wide receiver 10 every single week. After this, the wide receiver 11, I'm going to have Mike Williams, which could be a little bit surprising because he didn't really do much, but I think he's a great buy low target. We saw that this offense is still elite, and he was on the field for basically every single snap, running the most routes on the team. Keenan Allen also is one of the people that got hurt, so he's going to be out at least this next week, which their game is on Thursday, and he's already been ruled out for the game. This video is actually very likely coming out on Thursday, so he's ruled out, and Mike Williams is a clear wide receiver 1 there against a game that's probably going to turn into a shootout. So I'm pretty high on Mike Williams this year. You can definitely try to trade for him. It could be too late though, since it's about to be Thursday, but regardless, I think he's a great play this week. And the last person I'm going to have in this tier is Marquise Brown. They're playing the Las Vegas Raiders, what isn't a super good matchup. Now, he did catch a touchdown, which kind of saved his day, but he only had 4 targets. If he has another day like that, we're definitely going to have to move him down because it won't seem like this clear dominance that we thought it could be coming into the season. But we also need time for kind of Kyler and Marquise to adjust to each other again. The offense overall didn't look very good. They were missing a ton of weapons besides DeAndre Hopkins. So I think we need some more time with it, and there's still not a lot of options. And I think that he definitely has an opportunity to show what they traded a first round pick for. But normally when you invest that much into a person, you're going to give them the opportunity to show that they're worth it. And so we'll reevaluate after this week, but for right now I have him ranked my wide receiver 12. After this, I have Cortland Sutton. They're playing Houston, which is a really good matchup for them, so I think they should be able to dominate this. Russ is probably pissed off they lost his last game, which is crazy. But Sutton didn't really show to be that clear wide receiver 1. He definitely still is a wide receiver 1 there, but it's not a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. It's more like a 1A, 1B with them, it seems like. They both had 7 targets, but Jerry Jeudy had that one big breakaway touchdown. So you take that away, and Cortland Sutton was much more consistent and predictable in his production. And with another great matchup, I think he's going to be able to have a really good week. After that, I'm going to have Gabe Davis at my wide receiver 14. They're going up against Tennessee Titans, which the New York Giants beat, so I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills are going to be just fine with them. Gabriel Davis actually ran the most routes on the team last week, so he's the very clear wide receiver 2 and should be getting a ton of opportunity. He caught that big touchdown and ended up going 4 for 88 and that 1 touchdown. In this offense against a matchup that they should be putting up points, I think Gabe Davis is going to continue to ball out. We'll see how consistent he can be. I think we'll get a good idea of this is like to how integral he is to the offense, because obviously it's more shaped around Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But given what he's shown in his talent, I think he could easily keep producing around this area, but we'll have to wait and find out. Up next, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions. They're playing the Washington Commanders. We saw Christian Kirk put up over 100 yards on them, and Amon-Ra had 12 targets, 8 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. I think he's going to continue to be a target machine. So specifically in PPR leagues, he's going to have a massive bump, but I think he's going to be absolutely great almost every single week. This is a good matchup, and he definitely should have the volume to finish around here. After that, I have Jalen Waddle, who had a nice breakaway touchdown. He only had 5 targets though, so it's a little bit worrisome. Playing the Baltimore Ravens, so good defense. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is the main focus there, but Jalen has the ability to break away a touchdown like we saw, and I think he's going to continue to get looks as the season goes on. Their offense looks like it should be solid too, so I imagine their offense is going to be good enough to support both these wide receivers. And the last guy I have in this tier is Jerry Jeudy. Like I talked about with Cortland Sutton, this is a really good matchup against the Texans. He also got 7 targets last week, which is the same amount that Sutton got. And we saw the ability that Jeudy has on that big breakaway touchdown. No reason for things like that not to continue. All right, moving on to the next tier, I have Terry McLaurin at my wide receiver 18. He saved his fantasy day on that touchdown, but he only had 3 targets and finished with 2 receptions. Curtis Samuel had 10 targets. Now, I don't predict that's going to happen every single week, but it's definitely something you have to take notice of. Jahan Dotson also looked really good, so Terry's not the only guy in the offense anymore, which should be good for him because it should open up other things, but we don't know who the favorite target is of Carson Wentz yet. But based on last week, I'm going to lower him a little bit. They're playing Detroit, which is a really good matchup, so he should be just fine, but I want to see more of how the targets and snaps and routes and everything break out. After that, I have Brandon Cook. They're playing the Indianapolis Colts, so pretty tough matchup, though he looked really good last week. He had 12 targets for 7 receptions, 82 yards. I think most people knew coming in he was going to get a lot of targets, and Davis Mills was better than everybody thought. I mean, they tied the Colts, which is pretty impressive. I don't think anyone expected that game to even be close. Now, Denver's a good defense that they're playing. He should have the Patrick Surtain matchup, although I'm not exactly sure how much he shadows. I'll have to look into that, but he should get enough volume where he can be right on this wide receiver 20 every single week. He's always been great for fantasy every single year, and he looks like he's just going to continue to do that. So not somebody that's going to have a super high upside every single week, but you should feel very safe about playing him. The other guy I have in this tier is DJ Moore. I really thought that he might be able to go into the next tier, but Baker might just not be enough of an upgrade. We're obviously going to have to see more, but Robbie Anderson got the most targets. I don't think that's going to continue. I'm sure DJ Moore will end up taking that over. I mean, Christian McCaffrey might, who knows, but I think DJ will get the most targets for the wide receiver, most receptions and everything, but I don't know if Baker and the entire offense will be good enough to support DJ Moore being a top 15, top 12 wide receiver. We'll just have to see a little bit more. They're playing the New York Giants, so pretty good matchup. Still still is good enough and should get enough volume where he's in your lineup, but I'd temper expectations just a little bit. Moving on to my last tier, the first guy I have in there is Juju. He saw 8 targets, 6 receptions for 79 yards last week. Now, we know we've heard a lot about how there's no clear wide receiver one and the ball's gonna get spread out a lot, and I do think that's true, but it just seems like Juju's the best wide receiver there right now. And they're going up against the Chargers without JC Jackson. Now, Asante Samuel will still be there. I don't know exactly how much of like a lockdown corner he is. I know there's a lot of potential with him and he showed flashes, but I don't know exactly how good his coverage is. He guarded Devontae Adams a lot last week, so couldn't really get much from that. And Derwin James, I know, is going to be on Travis Kelce whenever they're manning up, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Juju is going to be a part of the offense enough where he'll be right around here and obviously has a chance at scoring a touchdown on that offense. After that, I'm going to have CeeDee Lamb. They're playing the Bengals. The big story here, there's no Dak Prescott. Obviously, Cooper Rush is going to be playing for them, and CeeDee should get enough volume where he'll be a wide receiver 2 for fantasy, but there's just no way the offense is going to be good. And with those diminished scoring opportunities, it's hard for him to be an elite fantasy option. Even with Dak there, they weren't looking that great together. He ended with 10 targets and only had 2 receptions, and so I'm definitely worried about him. It'll be easier to know where to put him once we see them on the field together, but we're going to have to rank him around here for right now. You're still probably playing him if you have him, but if you have some of these better options, I would be okay with benching him. There's just no way that this offense is going to be any good, but he's going to get volume. After him, my wide receiver 23, I have Deontay Johnson. They're playing the New England Patriots. They always tend to scheme out your first option, which is probably Deontay here. Tyreek Hill still had a good game against them, and Deontay still had 10 targets last week. Wasn't super efficient with all of them, but it shows that he's still going to get the volume regardless, so he's going to be in this top 24 consideration always. Now, it's not a very good matchup, and honestly, the offense looks very similar to what it was last year. We'll see how it progresses throughout the year or once they hand it over to Kenny, but for right now, I think this low-end wide receiver 2 is where he should be. After that, I have Michael Thomas, who honestly I might even put ahead of these 2 guys right here. The issue with him really is that they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's a really tough matchup, but he showed that he's still got it. He scored 2 touchdowns in week 1, and I think that as he gets more reps with Jameis, they're going to be better and better together because they really haven't played much together, and I think that their offenses are going to be a lot better overall. I just think that these guys might be better right now, so I initially ranked him below them. I might put him ahead. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to keep them behind here just based off of the matchup, and I don't think that the offense is significantly better enough for it to make a difference, and they're in the same tier. That's kind of why I have tiers. That's why these guys are ranked here. I put all of them in the same tier, but I'm definitely excited on how Michael Thomas looked to start the year and how it continues. The last guy I have in my top 25 is DK Metcalf. He showed to be the clear wide receiver 1 in Seattle. He got 7 targets and caught all 7 of them, although he wasn't very efficient with them, but Geno did look better than I thought he was going to look, but they got a pretty tough matchup against SF, but like I've talked about, we have no idea how good or bad San Francisco is because that game we just can't take anything away from, and their corners haven't been good recently, but they upgraded them in the offseason. But like I said, Geno looks solid, and I think he's going to get a ton of targets, and he's a freak athlete that could break anything at any time, so I think just his volume and his talent puts him in this wide receiver 25 pretty comfortably. Now, some guys that I have ranked right outside of here that are definitely in consideration: Rashad Bateman, Christian Kirk, Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson. All those guys are ranked right outside, so if you have any of them, I can definitely understand debating between the guys in this last tier. If you have questions, just let me know down below. I can get back to you as soon as possible. Or if there's any other start-sit questions you have, just leave them down below. This is my top 25 though for this second week of football. I should be releasing my quarterback and tight end rankings pretty soon in the next couple days. If there's any other videos you want to see before week 2 starts, also you can let me know down below. But thank you guys for sitting through this. You guys are awesome. Let's go dominate this week. Later.